Hello guys, and welcome to another Daraja API tutorial. My name is Ben, and in this class we're going to learn about transaction reversal. So we delayed this last video not because of anything, but this week we had a lot of work, and then it was so cold out there that I developed a cold, and at least I'm now back. So just a brief about this class is that sometimes you may, for example, sell items, and maybe your inventory, maybe you don't have a good system for tracking your inventory, and you continue displaying it probably on your web page or anywhere, and then when a person buys, you find that you don't have an inventory. Now, instead of this person calling and probably initiating or calling Safaricom and asking for refund and all that, you can initiate the reversal by yourself. A good example is, there was a day I was buying KPLC tokens, and I was using provider, probably a website. I'll give references as during our last class, where these inspirations go through, and actually some of the places I've seen the implementation, and it was so good. And I bought tokens, and it happened that it's like there was a problem with I don't know, the providers or something like that, and immediately because they knew I could not get the tokens, I immediately got a text for reversing the transaction. So actually I was able to buy tokens directly from KPLC, which normally I don't do. And then but it was so simultaneous that I was even impressed at how they were doing it, and sometimes I should give credit to those guys. Yeah, so I should actually get started on this tutorial. It's going to be very short and very brief. It's just reversing. Okay, as you can see, I'm already starting to wrap up the whole class. So I'll write a wrapper class for everything, which will be our last class probably, and we'll just create like this class, and it will just perform all the functions that you want, as long as you pass in all the required parameters that we shall also be defining. Also, this is just a sketch. Probably there'll be refactoring, there'll be renaming, there'll be so many things until this now class becomes one of a usable class. And then at the end of the day, you can be able to fill the test cases and probably submit to Safaricom and go live. We can't actually promise the process of going live, but we shall try to seek whether we get some insights on the criteria specifically that they'll use, or they use to actually certify or to actually allow you to go live. So we can't really comment on that part because we are not directly involved. These videos are just developed out of interests. So let's get started with this class for today. So what we want to do, I'm not going to use the final code. I'm going to create a new file here, and I'll save this as reverse. So probably your implementation should contain things like, probably we'll check for whether the thing you're selling is actually available, or it can be available but cannot be delivered to where the client is. Probably logistic issues, probably many reasons. Yeah, so if those things happen, and we'll be probably discussing these things towards the end. So if those things happen, you now need to reverse this transaction, and this is the process generally. So let's go to our access token. We'll still need this code, as you can see, it's very important. So we'll copy it. I think I'll zoom in a little, just like that. So this code is already available on our GitHub, so we don't don't have to do some coding on it again. So for those people who might probably be joining this class at this point, this code we already done a tutorial on it, so you can go back and probably see. I think it is tutorial number 5. The next thing is you'll head over to the Daraja API documentation. The best thing is to log in first, because we'll also need so many things from them. I'll also need to duplicate this tab, then I'll go to documentation. This one will go to documentation, but head over to test credentials. So on the documentation, go to APIs, then transaction reversal. I'll go to PHP code and I want to copy reversal API. So copy this. Once we have that, we'll come and paste it here. So also zoom out again. Yeah. So I'll remove this part of code, and this is now where we are making our reversal requests. Our request body. So we'll go here, and then we just need to indent this. Correct. Now, as we have always been doing in other classes, we've always been separating all this information and probably pasting it up here and creating a new sort of these variables somewhere and fill them privately. In this class, we're not going to do that. Now we have at least graduated a little. So whenever you feel like you're going to do that, then that one's going to be the way. So here we'll fill with the access token, and this access token is generated from this point. So the next thing I'd like to do probably is to change this from URL to access token URL. Once you change this one here, you also change it here, and then this one is reversal. I'll call it your reversal URL, and I'm going to copy it and paste it here. And now once we are through with this, probably just head over and start our part. So I'll reduce the spaces. Something that you'll notice is that we also have an error here from the developer documentation. We have two similar variables called command ID. So we'll just remove the first one. These are just common errors that people make. It's not something out of the ordinary. We also make these mistakes, and as long as we are human, we are prone to make these mistakes. So the best thing I'd like to do now is to generate my security credential. So once I have this one, I'll copy it. I'll go to my security credential here, paste it. So I have it. My initiator name is test API. Test API, transaction ID. Now this one is going to be interesting. I'm not going to touch that. I'm also not going to touch this. But now coming to receiver party, this is our shortcode, yeah, and it's probably our shortcode 1. So ensure you enter shortcode 1, which is 600.183. In your case might be different. So something else that you need to change is the receiver identifier type. This one is a very interesting thing. If you go back to documentation here, and you're looking at reversal, click reversal, you'll find that on our sample code we are provided with 4, but actually we're supposed to change it to 11. Yeah, so change it from 4 to 11, and then we'll also change our URLs. Here I'm going to change mine to http slash M-PESA, no, actually it's projects M-PESA API, and then we'll just say reverse response .php, and it's what I'm just going to use both for my callback and timeout. So paste it. These are things you should be changing, yeah. And now this is our last class on the API, so you should be able now to start implementing for timeout, so that you can be able to, if it's timeout, although it can be the same file implemented differently. That Whenever it gets a response with a specific value, we'll be looking for whether it's a success response or probably timeout, and then you fill it as required. So here we'll probably just write a remark. So I like putting out of stock, probably out of stock, and occasion we can say web purchase. So I'd like just to say that. Yeah, something else we need to do is to populate our transaction ID and the amount, and this one should be the exact amount that you're filling or that you have actually received. You don't deduct, you don't add anything. It has to be reversed the exact amount. Now to do that, we need to simulate a transaction so that we can be able to probably get a new transaction number, and that's the transaction that we want to reverse. So I'll open my file, my server for simulate. We had done this one. Something I'm going to do is to change our amount here to around 150,000. Yes, and I'll say this is probably invoice number 99. Nothing else. I just want to get a transaction number for this, and the amount we're going to reverse is this one. So if that is done, then save the file. Let me run it. And then what I want to do is to simulate PHP. Yes. So has been accepted. So what I'm expecting to see here is my file with the transaction number. So refresh, and we have a response. So I'll just copy this and paste it here so that you can be able to see the responses. So paste it, and now we have our transaction, which was true for 150,000. Probably you can't be sending 150,000. Yeah, we have. No, this is 15,000. We can't be sending 50,000. That is beyond. So what are we going to do? We're just going to copy this transaction number. So we'll copy it, bring it to our reverse. So we'll paste it where we have transaction ID, and then the amount is 15,000, like that. Those are the only information that we're supposed to provide. Now we don't have the reverse response, so we are going to create it. So I'll copy this, new file, save it as reverse response, and then it's going to be the same as we're just going to have the same file as this, or as any file that we have been using to receive information from the endpoint. So on this one we're just going to say reverse response.json. yeah, it's not a must to put JSON. If file extension can be okay, we can even change it to .pdf to still work, but for purposes of us reading it, we'll change it like that. So let me just maintain everything the same. And then now let's confirm we have filled everything. We have our access token here. Do you have our access token provided there? This is our security credential, M-PESA, and everything is now fine. So let's go and update this file. So reload it. So we just want to update these two. So upload. We have, I wrote a wrong spelling for reverse. So I'll rename it here. Is reverse. Remove that. So copy. Okay. Now I'll come and paste my reverse here. So it was accepted, successful. Let's see whether we have made the right response. We have our reverse response.json and rename it. So let's copy that one, paste it here, and check for the results. So the first thing we check for is the result code, which is 0. That means this transaction was successful. Debit account balance, that's okay. So what we're interested in is the amount, which is 15,000. Time it was completed, the original transaction ID, which is this one. Charge It's actually free to reverse. The person who had paid, that is the number, and the party or our short code was this one. So this transaction actually has successfully processed. That's all. Let's meet in our opinion video in our next probably summary of what you have been doing, where you'll know more about me. So thank you, and let's meet in our next video.